October 1943. A grain silo feeding Nazi supply lines explodes in a Polish village so remote it barely exists on any map. The German security file documenting it was later sealed. The couple who carried it out were erased from every record. Across occupied Europe, operations like this were deliberately buried, not by the Nazis, but by the post-war governments that followed. A forgotten war fought entirely in the shadows, leaving almost no trace. Almost. Zabicki, October 23, 1943. In the darkness before dawn, 6 villagers gathered behind the grain silo that fed the German artillery horses stationed near Siedlce. Tomasz Kowalski, just 22, clutched a torn scrap of paper, a plan written in his sister Anna's hand, lines crowded with nervous calculations. Anna, 18, had left her classroom empty that week, claiming illness. John Novak, the village mechanic, carried a canister of lamp oil. Maria Zielinska, a widow twice over, pressed a rosary into her palm. 2 boys, Piotr and Wojciech, cousins barely old enough to shave, watched the road for patrols. The plan was simple: douse the silo's base, ignite the grain, and vanish before the flames reached the sky. The blast that followed was anything but simple. It ripped through the wooden structure, sending scorched chaff swirling over the fields. By sunrise, German soldiers were combing the village, rifles at the ready. The official Fonciel, the Sicherheitsdienst dossier KA 804-379, summed it up in one line: explosion at Siedlce Grain Depot, no enemy involvement identified. But the parish register at St. Joseph's told a different story. 2 sudden burials on October 24th, names entered in a trembling script. Later, both were marked as collaborators, a label that would cling to their families for decades. Tomasz vanished in 1947, arrested by the new regime and never seen again. Anna survived the war, her hands still ink-stained, and years later, in exile, she handed over the original sabotage plan to a Polish historian in Toronto. It survives today, in Fon's KOW 84, the only artifact that proves what happened that night. The silence that followed was not just fear. It was erasure. The cost was measured not only in ruined grain and lost lives, but in the way a family's courage was buried under a single official sentence. In Zabicki, the war left no monuments, only a gap in the ledger, a missing son, and a plan written in a young woman's careful hand. April 12, 1944. The mountain road above Gorinja Vas lay silent, save for the distant clatter of a German convoy winding through the alpine dark. Luka Subik, a locksmith with hands blackened by years of work, crouched beneath the 12-meter timber bridge. 3 local boys, Tomaz, Jur, and Matevs, their breath clouding in the cold, threaded steel cable through drilled holes, while Luka's father, old enough to remember the last war, packed a crude charge of black powder wrapped in oilcloth. The only light came from a single shuttered lantern, flickering as Alenka Novak, the village's young schoolteacher, relayed whispered warnings from the lookout post. They worked quickly. The charge was wedged into a hollowed beam, the fuse wound tight and hidden under moss. At 3:12 in the morning, Alenka handed Luka a battered radio. He tapped out the phrase, "Black Eagle has fallen," on the set's cracked Bakelite keys, a code sent to the nearby partisan station confirming the bridge was ready. Moments later, the blast tore through the night. Timber splintered, steel cables snapped, and the bridge collapsed into the ravine, cutting the only supply route between Trieste and Ljubljana. By dawn, German engineers found nothing but twisted wood and the echo of sabotage. The Cato B report filed the next day, ZBR KA 12467, recorded the event with a single line: "Unexplained bridge collapse. Sabotage suspected." But the real erasure came later. In the first years after the war, Luca was named a hero in local gatherings. His name appeared on a provisional list of partisan commendations. Yet in 1952, an internal memo, SOC 3502, circulated quietly through the League of Communist archives. It ordered the removal of Luca's honors, citing uncontrolled civilian initiative. The directive did not accuse him of betrayal, nor did it mention the bridge. His name was simply crossed out, replaced by silence. Luca returned to his tools, spending his remaining years as a carpenter in a nearby town. The bridge was rebuilt, the road paved over, and the story of that night faded from official memory. Only a coded phrase in a radio log and a redacted memo in the archives bear witness to what was lost and who was made invisible. Night fell early on the island of Kagan in November 1944, but the work began even later. Einar Olsen pulled a length of copper wire from the folds of his coat, its fishing line sheath glinting faintly in the cold air. At the edge of the fjord, the German radar antenna loomed above the rocks, a silent sentinel tracking convoys far out at sea. Einar's hands, raw from the nets, worked quickly. Helge Andersen, the village carpenter, had shaped the wire for this purpose, twisting it to the right gauge to carry a fatal spark. Niels, just 19, watched the road for headlights, while Anders Dahl waited in the shadows with a satchel of bread and dried fish. The plan was simple: climb the mast, thread the wire across the contacts, and let the salt air do the rest. On the morning of November 7th, the radar station went dark. The decoded German report, now catalogued as KV2132 in the British archives, reads, "Radar failure, suspected sabotage, no enemy contact recorded." The entry is brief, almost routine, but the impact rippled across the coast. Allied convoys slipped past undetected that week, while German officers scoured the village for signs of intrusion. The copper wire, scorched and brittle, was hidden by Ingrid Olsen in a wooden box beneath the floorboards, preserved through decades of silence, outlasting even the war's memory. Retaliation arrived before dawn 3 days later. The German diary, RGAA 70364, notes a punitive action in Skiervoy: 1 civilian killed, several detained. Anders Dahl's name appears in the parish death book, the cause listed only as inaction. No official citation honored his role. Einar Olsen left Norway in 1951, the wire still in his family's keeping, a fragment of sabotage that survived when so many records did not. Today, it rests in the Skiervoy Historical Society, tangible proof that not every act of resistance vanished. The wire's twisted coils speak for a night when a handful of villagers blinded the eyes of an empire, and for the cost exacted in the aftermath, a cost measured in silence and in the artifacts that remain when memory fades. Records do not forget by accident. Forgetting is engineered by clerks, by ink, by the silent logic of bureaucracy. In a county office, a name is struck through, a parish register line overwritten, the original lost beneath a heavier hand. Pages vanish, torn out, sealed, or replaced with blank sheets. The absence itself becomes a warning. Redaction marks, once bold, now faded. Slice through incident reports in the Bundesarchiv. Security decrees from the Sicherheitsdienst reclassify events as banditry or collaboration, erasing not just actions, but reputations. Clerks follow sealed custody protocols, shifting files from open shelves to restricted vaults, or refiling them under misleading categories, public order disturbance instead of enemy sabotage. Amnesty clauses, common after the war, let authorities seal away records of irregular fighters or civilian deaths with a signature. Decree SOC 3502 authorized removal of names from commendation lists if their actions were labeled uncontrolled civilian initiative. The law itself becomes a tool for silence. In rural ledgers, the gaps are quieter. Missing index entries, unexplained blanks in burial registers, notations in a different hand. A notary's book from 1943 shows faint erasure marks where two names once stood. Conservation reports from eastern Poland describe palimpsest ink, old writings scraped away, replaced by a new story. In Norway, a transport log skips a line on the night a radar station went dark. Sometimes only a sealed envelope remains, labeled Disturbance Dossier, forbidden to be opened for decades. The clerks who carried out these acts remain nameless. Their only trace a hesitation in the loop of a letter, a hurried signature. Their work ensures that what happened in the shadows stays there, measured in the gaps where stories should be. A wartime Reichsbahn ledger, brittle and yellowed, records the convoys of 1944 in neat columns: date, train number, cargo, destination. But scattered through the timetable, blank slots interrupt the order. No train, no cargo, no reason given. On November 7th, a missing entry matches the night German radar failed near Skiervoy, as noted in declassified British intercepts. In the Norwegian National Archives, a sealed folder marked Disturbance Dossier GR12 contains just one sheet, a list of delayed shipments, each delay echoing a blank in the German ledger. Every gap aligns with a known act of sabotage: a bridge collapse in Slovenia, a grain fire in Poland, a blackout in Norway. A modern historian's analysis reveals the pattern, each blank entry marking a night when resistance struck, and the effects ripple outward: troop movements diverted, ammunition stranded, hospitals left waiting. Yet, official records never mention sabotage. Instead, a security decree, SOC 3502, orders all unexplained disruptions filed under public order disturbances, their real cause buried beneath layers of secrecy. The custody list, read aloud by the archivist, names the clerks who handled these files, each signature a silent agreement to erase. In the Bundesarchiv, a conservation report notes palimpsest ink, evidence of erased truths. The blank slots are not clerical errors. They map a hidden war, each absence a record of defiance. The silence in the files weighs more than the words that remain. Official records stay silent, but absence leaves its own scars. Even now, fragments of their defiance surface in dusty archives, challenging what we believe we know. History's shadows stretch into the present, reminding us how easily courage can vanish unless someone is willing to look where others won't. Share your thoughts below.